Welcome to the I'm Perfectly Divine podcast, a place for the strong, sensitive, spiritual seeker to recognize the perfection of your human journey as a pathway to remembering your divinity. I am Michelle Bursell. My work is to bridge both the emotional and spiritual worlds through proven and grounded frameworks that support you to live in the wholeness you already are. For over the past 2 decades, I have supported people from all around the world, as well as Fortune 500 companies, to dissolve the divisions within them and live with greater empowerment and love. This podcast is an exploration of the paradoxes that befuddle us as we live our lives being both human and divine. Together, you and I, along with other experts, will navigate integrating psychology and spirituality, the divine feminine and the divine masculine, the darkness and the light, to create greater sacred union from within. I believe through your remembering that you are innately divine, that you will allow yourself to more openly shine. So let's get to it, because your unique light is needed more than ever. All right, this week we are talking about trusting the gap. And this is allowing yourself to take a pause, because there is this gap between where you are right now and where you are going, and you feel it, right? You either feel it because this has been out of your control, like something has happened, something has created a change in your life, where it's like, okay, I am now what was no longer is, and now I have to start creating a life without what was. And this can be, of course, very challenging if we liked what was, right? And sometimes we have to trust the gap, because there is a inner calling for change. And I'm certainly feeling it. And that's part of why this episode is going to be personal, because I have news to share about that. But I also want to really encourage you that if there is something brewing, how you can allow yourself this pause and grant yourself this pause, so that whatever is brewing can continue to grow until it is ready to emerge. So I know that if you are experiencing a gap, and the visual that I get is this is someone on the trapeze, and they're going from one swing, and they've got to let go to grab onto the other, right? And it's that moment of like, am I going to trust this? Am I going to trust that I can grab onto that other swing rather than cave to fear? But I think the good news is that even if fear gets us in the moment, there is a net. There is always a net. And sometimes that net feels very low and difficult, and yet it's still there. And so a lot of our human experience is being able to continue to work through life's challenges, these moments in the gap when we don't know what's going on, and to know that we are either going to be caught if we feel like we have missed that swing, or to give ourselves that space so we can build that trust and faith, so that as that swing comes around, you are able to let go and grab on to that other bar. And so again, sometimes this happens to people, and this is unexpected. This is a loss that in a mourning from one area of your life that no longer is. And so sometimes we want to just push that aside and keep going. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think there is an inner knowingness. If you just need space, if you need time, especially if this loss has been filled with grief for you, this is something that only you can give yourself permission to really be able to nurture yourself and then honor yourself for your resilience, for your strength. And it's there because our heart keeps beating, and our heart will guide us, and it because it knows the way. The heart always knows the way, but it can be hard to connect with at times, especially when we are struggling with our ego, when we are going through major loss. This is all part of our human experience. When we are experiencing our heart calling us to do something next, this is where we have to trust that the gap is there with answers for us. So the gap is you get this notion, you get this idea of like, okay, in this present moment, I can see that I'm being guided to go somewhere else. But the how to get there isn't going to be clear, certainly not right away. And this again is why we want to be able to give ourselves this space, create a pause as much as we can, and allow ourselves this unfolding. And it really is this sacred time. And the more that we are able to allow ourselves this time is a privilege. And so, what is coming forward for me is that it is time for me to take a pause with the podcast because something else is brewing. And so, on some level, this, of course, has been a difficult decision because I looked up recently, and we will have been together for 98 weeks in a row with this last podcast. And so that has deep meaning to me, that you've tuned in, and certainly you may not have tuned in every week, but the fact that you've tuned in, the fact that we are connected, it has so much meaning to my heart that out of your busy day, you're willing to listen in, that there is something about certain episodes, something about the podcast that has served and supported you. And that touches my heart because the whole point of the podcast is to support you, to remember we are both and we are both human and divine. And there is something so sacred in everything that we are doing in our human journey. And what has come forward so deeply is how interconnected we are. And I just feel blessed that our lives have somehow found each other. And there's something very sacred to that for me. I was recently in a meditation, and I got to feel everyone that I've had a relationship with, no matter, how that relationship turned out in the end, or what my ego would want to quantify that relationship as. It was this spiritual connection, like really feeling that in my heart, what it means to say that we've had some form of relationship, because at some point I got to experience your heart. No matter what the relationship is, I've gotten to experience your heart. And so I know I haven't met many of you personally, but there is an energy to feeling one another's love. There's an energy to supporting one another. And it's just, I just can't even put into words how powerful even the slightest interactions can be for one another, and how much your love is shaping the lives of others. Your love is coming forward in powerful ways. And that doesn't mean that we may not, in our humanness, always act the most loving, right? But there is this, there's something this that comes between two people, even when someone's not acting the most loving, that is, or has been for me, an opportunity for growth. And that's the beauty to it all. That is the beauty to being connected to one another. So I am so grateful for our connection that we have had. And, this is a pause. I don't know where it's going for sure. I may be back with perhaps some interviews, but where I'm being guided to go is something that is surprising to me. But what I know is that I have always honored that I'm a good order taker. So it's funny to me because I when I first got my job, when I was 15, my first job was waitressing. And so I've always been a waitress, Bob Evans, Applebee's, and then giving me the practice, I guess, of taking orders, listening really well, showing up. Um, and that is what guided me with my first book, with my second book. And so this is the same feeling, is that there's something brewing and I can't fully express it yet. And so I really need to honor that this is a time for a pause and to mind the gap. I love that from, any of you in London. Mind the gap. So this is the time that I am going to take this pause. And I'm also going to pause with my newsletter. But what I do want to say is that my newsletter will come back in September. I'm not sure what the status is going to be for the podcast, but I do just want to honor that we've had this connection and to encourage you to trust yourself if change is calling you, especially if change is calling you and you don't have all the answers. That is part of it. That's part of letting go of the handle of one swing and grabbing onto another. It's not that sense of certainty of like, I've got it. Because like, if you think about the trapeze, like you're literally like then getting, pulled in two different directions. And that's not going to serve you. And so we have to really honor where our heart is guiding us next, because our human condition is constant change. And the more we fight that, I think the more we suffer. The beauty in constant change is that this is the space, the sacred space to go into the nothingness of the potential of all is. And that means that we can put our mind towards fears. And again, the more you are grieving, the more we want to have compassion for that because you just experienced loss or trauma. But if this is deliberate, this is really your time to hone in on the potential, on what your heart is calling you to expand. Because all of it really does lead to heart expansion, but I don't want to say that when you're grieving, because when you're in that state, of course, your heart is contracted, and that's understandable. And yeah, this is a place to give yourself as much compassion as possible. When it's deliberate, it's like, let's go. Let's go and let's see where this wants to take me, because this is part of the excitement of life. This is where we have no idea how it's going to end up, but there's something exhilarating about trusting that there is this heart's calling, that we get to be blessed with a heart's calling that's pulling us somewhere else without all the answers. Like, that's really living life, right? And this is our opportunity to be it present in all of it. And for me, of course, there's been doubts. There's like, really, this is where you want me to go? But every time I put energy towards it, it's like there's just this ease in unfolding. And so that is what is allowing me to really say, yeah, this is where I'm being guided to go, even though it does not make sense to my mind. And so I just want to reiterate that for you. If you are being called to a shift, it takes the mind a bit to really catch up with the heart. And the heart just knows. My husband and I, or my kids, sometimes they want to like figure out the answer. And they sometimes get annoyed that my heart just knows. Like I just know because I'm listening to my intuition, like silly things, like I don't know. Silly thing. How many miles does it take to get somewhere? And I'll just kind of pop out a number and they're like calculating it, right? Like we are again connected to a divine wisdom and that knows. And I'm not saying not use your brain. Obviously, I still do and hope you do too. It's just knowing when we can trust. And when it keeps coming back to something, this is when the opportunity is for that potential for you. So we've heard the stories of, you know, if you don't listen, you get, a small voice telling you this isn't working. And then the voice gets louder, and then you get kind of hit in the head, and then you get knocked down. This is the side of when we're not listening to what needs to change that we're ignoring. But we also get the same voice for the potential for what's next. And are we going to listen to those whispers that are guiding us to do something different, new? And again, we don't know the way. Or do we just keep going back, falling back in the line of what our mind or what society tells us? Well, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what's next. And how can we do or integrate that both and the mind and the heart? Because we need both in our human expression. But there's something about following our heart that brings us back to a sense of aliveness, potential, and being able to really celebrate the unknown with joy, with awe, with creativity, regardless of how it turns out. And this has been that last part, regardless of how it turns out, has been a long lesson for me because it used to be that when I followed my heart, I expected a certain outcome. I was like, all right, divine, I'm listening to you. And now I'm expecting something to happen on in the external. And things didn't always happen on the external. But wow, did they happen on the internal? And I needed the internal changes that occurred in order for me to step into what I'm being called to do next in the external. So we are always being guided. It may not show up like this, and it may, who knows? But our job is, do I love myself enough to follow my heart? Do I believe in love over fear? Do I trust that there is a divine intelligence that loves you and wants what's best for you and wants even more than your mind can comprehend? And when you have that for yourself and we lean into that, this is when miracles happen, or what seems like miracles on the outside happens because your heart has been so full, so trusting, and ready for what life wants to bring you next. So I hope that our time together over the last 98 weeks has supported you to remember that there is nothing to fix, just to remember because there's nothing broken or wrong about you. Everything that you experience on your human journey is there supporting you, helping you to remember the love that you are. And that's it. And so I hope that we do stay connected. The best way to stay connected is going to be through my newsletter, because that I know I'm going to come back to. And I just hope that we do, but I also understand, like, I just want you to connect with whoever is like calling your heart next as to what is next for you, what will be supportive of you. And honestly, where I'm going, it may not pertain to you. So if that's the case, I am so honored and blessed that our paths have crossed. I can't wait to just continue to do life knowing that our hearts are open, our hearts are ready, our hearts are preparing us for each next step. And it's something that we can deeply trust and know within our hearts. So thank you again. I'm so grateful for our connection. I'm grateful for you listening in. There are so many episodes should you desire to go back and check out any that you have missed. I also did a special Sacred Alchemy series that is going to be up probably until mid-September. So if you haven't checked that out, I'll put that in the link. I'll put how to sign up for my newsletter. And thank you. Thank you again. And many blessings to you always.
I am so honored you have joined me today. If you enjoyed the I'm Perfectly Divine podcast, subscribe so you don't miss any of our power-filled episodes. Also, if you know another who is strong, sensitive, and spiritual and wants to dive deeper into emotions and ancient wisdom so they too can create profound peace and fulfillment from within, please share this podcast. Thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to reconnecting with you soon.